What were you saying, Hatch?
Yeah, but sorry we interrupted you. The finer line, what?
I think it's a finer line between being respected and being liked that more than people realize. It's hard to navigate those two sides, and just asking the four of us are just kind of hashing that out a little bit. Whether we're liked more, respected more. What's more important to us?
Yeah, what I was going to say. What do you want to be more?
Mm-hmm.
I think almost innately the human being wants to be liked, right? You don't want
Everybody
people
wants to be
disliking you.
Yeah.
And of course you want to be respected too, but that like thing plays a huge role in it. What we were talking about earlier is you try to be a good person. Forget rank, forget where you are within the fire service. You're just being a good person. No matter how good of a person you try to be in such a close-knit group and the culture of the fire service, there's going to be those that don't like. I mean, those that don't like you, you're going into an environment of such a diverse group of people that didn't choose who they get to spend every third day with. And then all of a sudden you start seeing all those little quirks about them that start bothering you. Like what we were talking about earlier, I'll do everything in my power to be a good human being, be a nice guy, and I'm going to be genuine. But no matter what I do, I know there's going to be those that are going to turn around and for whatever reason, they're going to dislike me. I'm perfectly fine with that. Perfectly fine with that.
Laura recognizes Hatch.
Okay, thank you. Does it matter whether or not you like them? As far as if you don't like them, does it matter whether they like you or
Is
not?
it easier just to go, I don't care if you like me or not?
Actually, that's a fantastic question.
like
It
you.
doesn't matter whether I like them or not, but it definitely matters if I respect them.
Okay, and that was the next word I was going to go to, was respect them if you don't respect them.
If I respect them and they don't like me, that's a little bit difficult on me. I'm not going to lie. That weighs heavy to go, wow, man, I really have a lot of respect for this individual and they don't like me. That'll probably weigh a little bit heavier on me, put me in more thought than
So what if
the like.
Does it work the other way? What if this individual that you don't care whether they like you or not actually does respect you?
Womp, womp, womp.
Do you owe them anything?
Oh, the
And I guess
tangle
this is
web we
going.
weave.
This is going back to our discussion of the mentoring thing from a while ago, where we don't always know when people have identified us as the person that they're
Following.
Yeah, and maybe they don't have the skills to show. I don't know. I just
Ooh,
is
what
it
a
possible for
dangerous
somebody
idea.
to respect you and really want to be around you, but also kind of be somebody that you are like, I don't like you. I don't want to be around you.
Oh, absolutely.
So how was that for that other person?
Well, I think I probably am getting that more than most. Just like I said, I think. Sorry.
I didn't mean to laugh out loud.
I think I scare a lot of people.
Oh,
I
can
think
see
there's
that.
some sense of respect, but I think they're also scared of seeing me angry or whatever. You don't want to see me when I'm
We're
angry.
scared to see you angry.
I was mad the other day. It's been a while.
I don't want to see that. It's
So
like,
I talked to somebody the other day that basically was enlightened to the fact that a lot of the people didn't like him. He didn't know that. And I truly, I see Shane's head go sideways for those that can't.
Had he ever asked me?
No. But, we had a fantastic conversation. In that conversation, he's saying, hey, people have a tendency to like you and respect you. And he's looking just for a discussion with him. I tell him, man, the best thing that you can come up in the fire service with is an accountability system with some people that you truly trust that can let you know what's going on. And some people did let him know. And I go, you just hit a gold mine. Just know that you hit a gold mine. If you got somebody that's willing to be honest enough with you to come to you and go, hey, man, people just don't like you. It's going to be hard to swallow that pill. But I said, you just hit a gold mine, and whoever those people are, keep them close. Keep them close because you need those people to keep you in check to let you know. Unfortunately, I think in the fire service, people will go and everybody may think that person knows. They don't know.
Right.
They don't.
Yeah. Especially if they're successful.
Yes.
Think about that. They could be deputy chief of something or other, and they've moved up in the organization. Everyone's like, they got terrible people skills, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, they were successful. Why would they change anything that they've
Right.
done? They have gotten to where they want to be. There's no reason for them to
It
change.
worked every day before today.
Exactly.
Or up till today.
Somebody it spoke to it, got them the
Right.
results they were looking for.
That individual, did they respond to what you told them?
Man, fantastic. First of all, that's what prompted a phone call with me just to go. He calls me just going, hey, this took place. Man, I honestly did not know. And I'm trying to reach out to some people that I respect and like to see, what I can do to shore this up.
Oh, now I know why I didn't get a call.
Yeah. No.
I'm impressed that this person did that.
Listen, I
mean,
was
that's-
blown away. I let them go through
cool.
the conversation. Hopefully, nobody knows who that person is, and hopefully he doesn't mind that I'm talking about this.
My mind's
But
racing right now.
yeah, no, I would never
I know you would.
disclose that. But anyway, I was blown away by two things, and I waited for that person to go through and tell me what his thoughts were, and then I said, first of all, kudos to you. Wow. You take some criticism. That's pretty significant criticism in your life, right? To go, hey, I've been doing this for 10, 15, 20 years, and all of a sudden I find out
right.
people don't like me that much. And then not only do you take the criticism from these people well, you start reaching out to other people to go, can you kind of mentor or help me through this? I'm like,
mind's
man,
blown right
listen,
now.
and this person, I'm fine with this person, but that conversation brought it to another level going, holy smokes.
Yeah.
I'm now looking at this person from a whole different lens going, the amount of fortitude that it takes for you to call someone or someone's and say, I didn't know this. I need to do something about it.
It's not just the fortitude; it's the capacity to change.
And
Yeah,
obviously,
obviously.
and the level of self-awareness that
Yeah.
actually takes.
Yeah.
is huge.
So
Self-awareness
impressive.
is big in my opinion.
Super impressive, as well as, again, and I probably said it more than I should have, but I'm like, whoever brought you this information, whether it's a who or multiple people, keep them close. That is so important. And I talked to him about our group and going, that's the great thing is that we have an accountability system where we can tell each other that we're not going to get defensive about it, and we help each other with those things. So if you found that, you hit a gold mine. So in the fire service, if you're listening, if you have people that can come to you, be honest, you want that. That's a gold mine. That's not taking place every day. And I'm not talking about just one of your buddies. If you have the ability to get true,
So how do you know if it's true? How do they differentiate between somebody just being a dick to them and saying, well, nobody likes you, and it being a true friend, or a true friend not being one that comes to you and is like, oh, man, you're good. Man, that guy's an asshole. Behind your back.
yeah,
Well, should you take everything that you hear like that with a certain amount of, is this true?
Yeah, it's a little bit of skepticism.
yeah.
But
Some
I mean,
discernment will have
even
to
Well, I think it's that trust quotient that we've
Well,
talked so much
yeah,
about. You
trust
have to
and-
trust that person who's delivering it to you.
trust and forgiveness. They're
Right.
the same thing.
If I just wrote somebody up and they're like, nobody likes you, well, I'm not going to take 100% of that.
Right.
It's true. But if it's somebody maybe, like you said, a little outside of your circle or whatever that you trust and respect, and they said, and I've said numerous times, I did something one time and everybody was like, that was a dick move. And I cared more about you guys thinking whether it was a dick move
Right.
than literally the person I did it to.
Well, I was going to
couldn't care
ask,
less.
does that person have an inner circle that you know of? Or do they
not
tend to
that
do
I'm
it-
aware of, but I think what their approach is, let me see who I can reach out to get some insight. Now, with what you're saying, Hatch, what I would say is this. I've had people say certain things to me in haste. The way I've always separated it is this. If you say it to me out of anger, defense, or no other place than harm, really, I'm not taking it. Although it may be totally true, that's just not a place that I want to be.
Well, I get the anger and defense,
If
but the
it's-
harm may be hard to necessarily unpack.
So I want to point something out just to make sure everybody listening gets this. You were talking about the accountability that we have, that circle that we have, and again, we've said it before, it's trust and it's forgiveness. Those two things are so tightly packed that the reason that we trust each other is that we know if we say something that we're going to forgive the other person. If you're not willing to forgive somebody else, they're not going to trust you. If you hold something against somebody for 20 years because of something that they did on scene that was stupid years ago, they're never going to trust you. because they know they can't make mistakes around you. They know they can't admit fault. They know they can't appear vulnerable, whatever. You got to be forgivable.
That's a good point.
Or you got to forgive people. Patrick Lencioni.
No, 100%.
Yeah.
It's the
And
foundation.
From us, what I'm thinking is this, Hatch. If I get any type of constructive criticism from the group or those that I trust, right? I feel like they're doing something to help you. If you're bringing something to me for harm, as in, just like you said, just being a jerk, you're not out to help me. You're just defensive or whatever it may be. You can put a word behind it. I'm less likely to take it. If somebody truly comes to you for help, we've brought this up a million times in the past, and I try every time, and some of you have been privy to it, after action on a scene or a post-incident, we're talking about stuff, and it's like, you have got to communicate all the way around. How often does an incident commander or the chief or whoever's there running the incident points out certain things that he saw that could be better, but then they won't reciprocate that back? And my conversation is, do you understand that if you don't tell them, they don't know? They think they're doing a great job. So the same thing applies, whether it's a station level or whatever it may be. Some people are walking around not having a clue that they are disliked, or that people think that they are substandard, whatever that negative thing may be. They just don't know. And it doesn't need to be presented in a defensive way or an aggressive way where all of a sudden you're like, yeah, we need to be honest. I'm going to go let this guy know that, he sucks and he's a jerk. And nah, that's not the way that it works. Trust obviously has to be built up. And if you hear some of those things and you start seeking out some of that mentorship or whatever to go, look, how do I shore this up? And to Hatcher, to your point that you bring up constantly, that doesn't mean selling yourself out and not being genuine. It just means being a better you. Not, okay, well, I'm going to have to, like they say, well, you can't wash the stripes off of that tiger. That's not what he's looking for. That person is looking just to be better them, not.
Hatch, go ahead.
So that brings me to another point. How often do you see people go approach that person who's
So I was going to ask,
self-centered or whatever
okay.
it is, and they are not asking for this feedback.
Well,
they don't want it.
I wanted to ask you something specific.
Oh,
Hatcher.
here we go.
Hang on to that thought, though, because I got something I want to go with. But go ahead, Bill.
All right. You are a direct person.
Yes.
Yes. I recognize that because I, to a large degree, am direct. I see that. Okay. You know somebody isn't liked. How long do you wait before you go tell them? Is it better to come at the beginning, or is it better to really to be able to say, look, is it better to go to somebody and say, hey, I've noticed that you're not really getting along with these people? Or is it better to wait and you go, you know what? Everybody in the world hates you. I don't know if you know that.
That's the statement that happens after you waited.
Well, I mean,
you waited too long.
Well, then granted, that
And the
waited
thing is,
too
it's
long.
like, who gets to do that? So in this group, as again, your chief officers, you do have some leeway into because you're giving some evaluation to individuals. But it made me think about your statement that we had between the four of us in our group text about maybe keep your opinions to yourself. When do you not keep your opinions to yourself?
That's a good point. So there's a text that goes out amongst this group here. Somebody has a strong opinion about something that took place, and the question is, do we go to that individual and say something or not? Which
we had one go and one not. And then there was a third.
a neutral.
Third that hadn't
Very
give
silent
hadn't
party.
give a response yet.
I didn't want to tell y'all why I didn't give a response.
Okay. Nice.
And I think it's situational, and I think it's topic based, and I think it's the person themselves to go, is this a person that's going to receive it well from you? Should it be coming from you? All those different things that you got to run through your head.
I think if it's somebody you're I'm going to say managing or leading, then I think you kind of owe it to that individual to give them some feedback.
Do you? Or
If you are managing and leading them.
As a leader,
yes.
you have a debt. You have an obligation I'm serious.
An obligation to who, though?
To the people you're leading.
Absolutely, but does that mean that let's put it in terms of the fire service right now? You're a chief officer. Are you going to kind of go to that company officer to go, look, I'm seeing a couple of things here, an opportunity for you to be able to a teaching moment or a mentoring moment, or are you going, I'm going to go down here and I'm going to handle this myself? Sometimes there's a time for both of those things.
No. Okay, I'm going to back that out for you just a little bit. What you're talking about right there is getting into a coaching event or a mentoring event, okay?
Correct.
So as a chief officer, you should be, in my opinion, for the most part, always in a mentoring atmosphere. It's not going to be 100%. There are going to be times it's very coaching, very direct. You need to do this.
Make sure we need to make sure we understand the difference. Mentoring and coaching.
Coaching to me is exactly what it says. It is coaching. You are telling someone you need to do this. You need to do X, Y, and Z to get this impact, this result, whatever. That is a very direct. I'm not looking for feedback from you at this point. I need you to go do this. And I see that typically happening at the captain level, which is fine. Mm-hmm. Mentoring is not me so much coaching you. It's more establishing what the parameters or what the edges of the plate look like and kind of walking you through how do you see your personality interacting with this. It's not saying you do it this way. It's saying, have you considered this? How would you think about that? How do you see this ending or whatever? You see what I'm saying? Coaching is coaching. You're on the field.
I see
coaching.
mentoring more as asking questions of the individual.
And it's a two-way street about the mentoring. Right. That's another.
What do you want to get out of this? What's your goal? What's your, and let them answer that. But back to Hatch. When do you wait? Do you wait? Do you do it earlier, later?
I
actually think you wait, which I know this is surprising, because if they're not asking, they're not going to receive it.
That's a good point.
And that's a whole other subject that where I thought I was going to get into earlier is whether or not a person really is ready for it, or do they just oblivious to it because they're narcissistic?
Right.
Well, that's not correct. Well, yeah. I wouldn't.
Again, I don't know what the wait. So when we say you wait, what does that mean? Are we talking 60 days, 90 days? Are you in like an evaluation period, or are you just kind of getting to know these
I guess it
individuals?
depends too on how dynamic it is as part of whatever you're asking. If it's just a general approach to how they're doing something, or like literally this is how they're made up.
I don't think I think you got to be careful waiting too long, because if this person is, we're trying to,
if I don't like them, I'll tell them immediately. I mean, it's pretty easy.
Just the individual you're aiming at, that you're trying to redirect or change behavior, just know they are impacting people every day. Right. So waiting is impacting people every day.
Well, so the timeline.
I got a question on that too.
They told two friends, and they told two friends,
and so on,
and so on.
I don't think that I wouldn't put a timeline behind it going wait or go right away. What I would say is it is very, very, very difficult, but you have to invest in every individual. Know the individual. That's going to determine whether it's going to take time or not. You may already know this person. You may already be able to develop a timeline for yourself to go, hey, I'm going to do this right away. Or it may be, I don't know this person that well. Let me take a little time to get to know this person a little bit better so I can determine what the best time is to deliver, something like that. Because it could be a hard-hitting message. And it could also be, this is something that I want to hit right now. For whatever reasons it may be. But it takes looking at the person that you're delivering that message to. And if you're taking, in my opinion, if you're taking yourself out of the equation, if it's to make you feel better, you're already headed down the wrong road. If it's for the sake of, man, I got something and I really want to help this person out, or it can really help this person out, and I can deliver it in a way where I think he's going to be able to take this well, I mean, I feel like I'm heading down a good avenue then. But if it's like, I'm really going to feel better if I just tell this person, you might want to hit the brakes on that one.
So what happens when you do that and they basically, and this happened recently with me, I kind of tried to step in with somebody that I thought was going a certain direction, and they didn't receive it well at all.
Right.
I mean, not well.
Did they ask? Yeah. Or you just told them?
No, but I think I waited too late also. I think it was so far gone with this person, everybody could see it. And when I finally said something, it was, I don't know. But it didn't make it better.
So it wouldn't have mattered who brought the message on that situation either, probably.
I think it might have mattered if there were more, if they heard it from multiple people, then maybe it would have.
Which got us back to what started the conversation. The individual heard it from multiple people, right?
Yeah, maybe that is it. Maybe
Multiple
it's,
people at the same time kind of thing. Like
Yeah, but
in
it-
conversation.
it
but
becomes
Amazing
one of
that
those
that goes
things-
along for so long, and then all of a sudden you're hearing it.
maybe it is that thing where you start going, you know what? I've heard this from a couple of different people. Maybe there's
most
something
people are
to
that
it.
self-aware.
I don't
no,
think they are either.
not at all. And you got to remember,
I think they can be. They
Sure.
just are not.
but we don't do a very good job in the fire service with that. So you come in new. When you first come into the fire service, you're going to hear all your faults. People are going to put you on blast because you're new. Then there comes a little bit of time there after you're in where your reputation is your reputation. It starts getting worse or it starts getting better, but you really start getting a lot less feedback in that midpoint of your career. And then as you start progressing, to me, it seems like you get a lot less feedback. Your reputation is your reputation. The problem is you may not know it. There's people that know it, that they know, yeah, everybody thinks I'm a jerk, or even on the good side, everybody really likes me or respects me, whatever it is. Some people know it, but there's definitely people out there that I think they're going through their career. They don't know that they're disliked, or people feel that a negative way about them. They just don't know. And they don't have a group or even maybe a person that can they can be accountable to, that would let them know. So then where does it creep up? It could creep up in any place. It could creep up during something that takes place that triggers that station, let's say, to have a falling out, and all of a sudden people out of anger. Okay, so now you're doing it to make yourself feel better. And this person may be 10 years, 15 years in, and all of a sudden you're in a shouting match or something that put the crew at odds. So yeah, that's not going to be well received. You're doing that to make yourself feel better because you guys are now in a fight. It could be later on during some type of promotional process. I mean, it's delayed. The only time you get feedback, honestly, from what I've seen, honest feedback, is in the beginning of your career in your recruit process, where everybody wants to shred you.
I don't know that I agree with that.
Yeah,
I don't agree
You
with
don't think
that
we give
either.
you honest
Yeah, I was
feedback?
about to say, this inner circle gives feedback.
General. This is not the norm.
Well, maybe it is.
I think
Maybe other
it?
people
I
out
think
there with their
Alternate
circles.
universe. This meeting is happening somewhere else.
I think the further you go in your career, hopefully you get more and more open to realizing that, you know, what you thought you knew in the beginning, you're realizing I know less and less. The more I know, the more I realize I don't know.
But we were saying earlier, I forget who said it, that, people don't have that much introspect. Some people don't have that much introspect. So,
Self-awareness, yeah.
Or self-awareness. So do they or do they not? And I'm
Well,
not
and
saying for
So
the,
how
we
many
shouldn't
times
judge
have you heard
in
people
broadcast.
ask you for feedback on them, and when you give it and you're honest, they really wanted you to agree with whatever they did. They really don't want you to be honest. I usually preface it with, "You sure you want to hear this?"
Yeah.
If I'm telling you that, it's not going to be pretty.
Well, and we need to, and I think we can all agree on this. There are people who pride themselves on being disliked.
Yeah, you're right.
Who like being the ornery,
Yeah.
whatever
That is true.
nobody likes, and it's almost like an abusive relationship where somebody keeps going back to somebody that beats them up because no, he likes me. I'm his driver. He likes me. Yeah, I know he's a dick to everybody else, but he likes me. I mean, it's just there are people like that, and we've got them in all of our departments that are just they pride themselves on it. But so let's go back to the nature of like versus respect. Does one of them, I wonder if one of them is more geared towards our person, who we are, and one of them is more geared towards our professional side. The personal side, I want to be liked, and the professional side, I want to be respected. And they're utilities. And they are used for two different things. The Band of Brothers quote that Shane was talking about, Spears was a character in Band of Brothers, the miniseries, and he's a warrior. He's a killer, and he has a reputation for being a killer. And at one point, he tells another character, the guy comes to him and says, "Did it really happen? Did you really kill all those Germans?" And he says, where'd you hear that story from? And his point is, he says, no one ever heard it from the person who saw it. It's always just a rumor from somebody who saw something, talked to somebody. And he says, but that reputation is useful. Now he's right. It's useful. He has a reputation and it's useful. It's useful in war and in getting men to do something on a battlefield. It's not necessarily useful in a fire station trying to get along for 24 hours or, it's.
I beg to differ, sir.
Well, no. I mean, there are, when you're on a fire scene, that requires a different kind of relationship. Mm-hmm. When you're living with people and trying to get along and trying to do other things other than fight fires, you require other parts of that relationship. So where does the like and the respect break on that for you guys?
I think mine's very intermingled.
Yeah?
Yeah. I don't think it's such a hard break between my professional life and my personal life.
Not professional and personal life, but the professional side of of who you are and the personal side of who you are. Mm-hmm. The person that has I don't see myself on the professional side as really engaging my emotions. I guess my emotions are really more my personal side. I try and keep my emotions.
Mine are going to be much.
I try and keep my emotions out of my
I do
business
too,
side.
But they tend to roll in there from time to time.
Oh,
but
they're
I try
always going
not
to.
to because the emotion side is so very dangerous when you're trying to deal with things. But I think I was more like what you are, kind of in the like and respect. I guess that's where you're going. It feels like it's a little more intermingled into that,
Yeah.
I don't know.
And I'm posing it as a one or the other, but it's not a one or the other.
Yeah, I don't think it's one or the other. Going back to an earlier conversation, I think almost innately humans want to be liked. I don't think people walk around going, I want everybody to hate me.
Agreed.
I think people want to be liked, and I think people want to be respected. Most want to be respected. But are you okay with not being, I'm more okay with not being liked than not being respected. I'm doing my best to be a good human every day, but
do you say that at home, or are we talking about at work? Are you
at home?
At home?
I'm sorry.
At home, he says yes, ma'am.
Well, no, but
at home I say yes, ma'am. That's just,
is there a difference?
I've seen her when she's
That's
mad.
part's true.
Trust me, you say yes, ma'am.
no. It's
At
totally.
we all say yes,
At
ma'am.
home, when you're talking about your family, do you want to be more liked or more respected?
More liked. Yeah,
More liked.
Then
at
on
the
work
work side, there's more. You're leaning more on the respect side.
Correct.
Is that correct? Okay.
Correct. Now, and let me say this: even on my personal,
Shane's making faces.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'm struggling with myself on this one. Go ahead.
in my personal life, there's a difference between my home life, my kids, my wife, right, my family, and then the outside world. What I say is, I'm going to be authentic. I'm going to be a good human being. I'm going to be good to people. If I'm not liked, I'm fine with that because I feel very comfortable that I am being a good person. Respect, I think it's a little bit more objective. So you can dislike me for a multitude of reasons, subjective reasons. Respect to me is a little bit different. Respect to me is a little bit more objective. So keeping it on the professional side, I go in, I do a few things that you don't like. You don't like me. Not a problem. The respect component, that one you're going to have to defend. I have no respect for that person. Why? That's usually what's going to come next in the fire service is why. You have a hard time filling in the blanks on that why, your case is shot out. The like is so subjective that they can dislike you for anything. Well, when he puts his dishes in the sink, he expects for other people to wash it for him. Last time he was in the toilet, all he had to do is take the toilet paper and put it in the feeder, but no, he had to leave it on top. They will dislike you for any multitude of subjective reasons. The respect component usually comes with a question, and what I find is you may not be able to fill in those blanks. So it's more objective. I'd rather be respected for the purpose of it's an objective thing. I'm respected because of this fairness. And I know you're looking.
I'm wondering right now if you can. I'm really wondering if you can respect somebody without first liking them.
I'm telling you, I'm struggling with this one.
Really?
It's a deep dive.
I mean, if so, your example, and I'm sitting there and I'm thinking because I know I sat there and watched somebody do it, and putting the dishes in the sink and expecting somebody else to do them, and I remember thinking, I don't like that person, and therefore I don't respect them. It was the entryway. You know what I mean? It was the beginning, and I didn't know this person. I was brand new in the department. Here comes somebody I don't know. They dumped their dishes in the sink and walked away. I immediately thought, I don't like them, and now I'm on my road to I don't respect them. I'm not.
You know, that may be an individual thing. For me, I can absolutely respect you and not like you.
I've always said that I could like people at work and not like them. How they, I'd see people that were good workers, but knowing what I knew about their personal lives, I didn't agree with what they were doing in their personal lives.
Okay, so I've also experienced that. Shane, you got a lot of thoughts going on.
I think it's a lot more complicated than we're really saying, because I've had the same thing where I'm like, I like somebody personally, but I don't like their methods, and I don't respect their methods.
Right.
So I think it's very convoluted and multifaceted.
I respect their work ethics, but I don't like the way they did blah.
Right.
Yeah,
Right. I think it's all over the place, actually.
Well, and so to get back to that, then do you owe it to that person to tell them?
I think you owe it to an individual. I think you owe it to an individual to, and this is getting back to that, having that conversation with an individual on when they're not meeting your expectations of whatever. And that doesn't mean you did 10 and I wanted you to do 12. It's how I think you should interact with somebody and you didn't interact with them this way. Right? Those are expectations. Expectations aren't always just quantifiable. I need you to do 15, blah, blah, blah. They are how I want you to interact with people, how I see it successful that you interact with people. I think you need to have those conversations early. If you're sitting there watching and evaluating or interacting with someone and they're a direct report to you and they are not meeting your expectations on how whatever, I think you owe it to them to tell them early.
I've had both. I've had both sides. I've had, people that I know, and, I don't think he'd mind me telling the story, but he's a friend, and, I have, several captains, and I was like, you're in the bottom portion. He's like, we're friends. I thought I'd be hired. And I was like, I thought you'd be hired too.
And you probably had that conversation.
And he's improved. He's improved since I've had that conversation, but
Did he?
but he knows me really well. And I'm trying to think of, like, if I went in and had those conversations, I mean, let's say you have.
That wasn't the end of the conversation, though. I thought you'd be hired too, and then you walked out of the room,
or we both laughed.
Well, but did you? There was more.
No, I'm sure there was some
It,
explanation,
right?
and
Yeah. I mean, I gave him points of what what I'm looking for,
Right.
what my expectations are. Yeah, but let's say you have 5 people, five officers, or whatever that your value or direct reports. You can usually have one supervisor, some people in the middle, and one underperformer. There's rarely a time where they're all going to be superstars or they're all going to be underperformers. They're always going to be that mix. I mean, so when you go to that underperformer, is it realistic that they're ever going to move up, or are you doing it to make yourself feel better? To tell
every group is going to have. If everybody in the group is performing at 96% and one of them is performing at 95, the 96ers are going to look at the 95 and go, "What the hell?"
I'm not doing it to make myself feel better. I'm doing it to help them out.
Right.
Even though it may not feel like it or sound like it or even.
And see, that's the
even
other
be
thing is
believable.
I don't think people are all the time prepared to get that kind of feedback. And so have you may have soured the relationship or caused conflict where you could have improved in other directions by saying
that's
something.
what the person that I reached out to, that I was trying to kind of give that feedback, I debated on doing it for a while. Shane and I talked about it while we were hiking quite a bit, and I finally pulled the trigger and then got the opposite reaction that I wanted, which probably has convince me that I won't be doing that soon. And again,
With that person.
I don't know. I don't do that often. That's
But see,
not
that's
my
where I
nature.
go back to, like, it's whether I like them or not. You know, if I don't really care, you know,
Truly
then I'll
like
tell them
this
right up
person,
front.
and I want them to do better. I wanted them to be able to see that they were.
And so I think that part somehow, and that's really important, I think, it needs to be conveyed in however you're forming that thing. It not be business.
Right.
It be, I care about this.
Right,
I care
That
about you.
relationship.
Well, I started
Right.
it off with, I've been debating about whether or not to mention this for weeks
Yeah.
because I'm worried about it.
Yeah. I did this with my entire battalion. I was going out and talking to the crews and like talking about how impressed I am with them and their performance and how fast they get out of the station to get on the scenes and stuff like that. And they're like, What's the joke? And I'm like, there's no joke. I mean,
What's next?
I'm being serious. They're like, no, there's got to be something else. You're going to hit us with something. I'm like,
there's
no,
a
no,
but
literally.
It's a butt. Yeah.
So
everything before the butt's horseshit.
right. So my reputation hurts that having that kind of conversation
Right.
because they don't think I'm capable of being real and honest
Sensitive and soft, Mike.
sincere.
Right.
You know, I also tell us time about it. You know, I had to talk to a kid who was doing an evaluation and, you know, he didn't pass the first time. And so he had to go back and the training officer came out and was like, what did he do wrong? And I told him, he was like, well, he wants to quit.
Right.
And I was like, I'll talk to him. He was like, yeah, but don't talk to him like you talk to normal people. And I was like, I can tone it down. I know how to. But they just see me do it, you know, on other
Right.
times where it you know, I can be very, very harsh and direct sometimes. Especially if you come at me. If you come at me, it
I think.
How do we feel
I
when
think-
this is 180 degrees the other way?
What do you mean?
When the valuation's coming up instead of how
we're
maybe-
giving it out.
Yeah, no, how we're not meeting those below us expectations. I thought we should have done this, or I thought you
Right.
handled that wrong, or I don't
Oh,
like the way you.
So if our direct reports are telling us what
Now
they think
they're
about
giving
us,
us the feedback. You know,
That's a
how do
good
we
point.
how do we respond to that? Are we willing to?
It depends on whether or not I
like
like them.
Kind of figured that's where that might go.
Well, is it whether you like them
Or you respect
them.
So let's just define respect.
Oh, I knew
I'm
it was
surprised
coming.
it took this
Hold
long.
on. Let's stop the clock. Stop the clock, and okay, we got it.
Yeah.
You know, it's very quick.
So if
Okay.
any of our listeners called in and said at this point in the podcast, you're going to win a free T-shirt.
Those of you, we had a pool going at what minute?
Right.
Oh, did you really? Great. Well, because I said that respect would be objective. So here's what it says for respect. A feeling, although subjective, a feeling of deep admiration for someone or something elicited by their abilities, qualities, or achievements. All three objective. You can definitely quantify abilities, qualities, or
You
achievements.
can't. I don't agree. You can't quantify qualities.
Yeah.
How am I going to say that you're trustworthy? Quantify.
I'm going to
that.
give them a 10 on that.
Yeah.
You have 95% quality
Wait,
trustworthy.
Tars, what's your
I'm gonna
humor
need you to
setting? I'm
dial
gonna need you
that
to
back.
dial that down. What's your asshole setting, Tars? 75%.
Well, on
What-
that
what
note, I
was
see
like?
the asshole settings going up right now, so I'm just going to go ahead and step off of that one and just leave it at the definition, and you guys can continue on.
What you want to with it.
Because the setting's like at 11 right now.
But you know, going back to what Shane said about the evaluation coming up to me, I wish more people would come to me and say something because
Why don't they?
Because they're
I scared
scared.
them. I'm sure they're scared
Because the
of me or
setting is very high.
something. Right. Because I do want to improve. I'm not perfect. I make mistakes. I screw things up all the time, and that's why I like this group. I mean, even though it may seem crazy, you know, but you guys have come to me before and said, "Hey, man, that you know, you stepped over the bounds there, or whatever." And you know, I feel bad about it. It's not something, you know. I'm not perfect. I make mistakes.
I think most people just don't. They don't
Make
get
mistakes?
that feedback back up. You know, I like to think of myself as being approachable, nice, likable, but I don't get that much feedback up.
And I beg people to come to my office and see me, and they don't come.
I just, you know, you end up hearing it secondhand or
Right. You hear it through the rumor mill.
Right.
Oh yeah, they didn't really like that you did
well, you
that.
did that.
Yeah, exactly.
That's unfortunate. Be better to have a little more open, you know, that
So
true
does that-
360 feedback.
But
kinda
is that
concept.
based in that trust and forgiveness thing? You
Yeah.
are a
Ultimately,
position,
yeah.
You are a position of authority in your department. You hand out corrective action. That's the opposite of forgiveness, really. I mean, in their view, I mean, they might not be to a point where they see it as it's corrective. We're not holding this against you, although technically we do if you're
For about a year.
yeah, for a year, but whatever. But is it because of your position?
I'm sure a lot of it is that, and a lot of it is institutionalized. The culture of the department is playing into that. So you're
Ash,
in some ways you're paying.
What's
for
it
the
like
ills of
where
that.
you are? Is the physical building of headquarters like a place that people don't want to go?
Oh yeah. It was funny because they were having a conversation about it recently where they didn't know what the layout was inside. Like they didn't know who was
they've
on.
never been there?
Because they avoided it.
Yeah.
They had no idea, and it's just been revamped now. They totally reorganized it and whatever, so it wouldn't matter to them now. But yeah, it's pretty funny you bring that up. It's just seen as like, oh, you don't want to go there.
Oh,
man.
we get
God,
the same
that's-
thing.
that's
now.
probably
We
a
get the
great-
exact same thing.
A whole nother road to go down, but how do you change? What actions can you take to change that perception, that view?
Well, we got an open door policy, right? Nobody just wants to go through
I
that
think
open
we've
door.
done. I think we've
we've-
spent years
Yeah.
trying to change this,
Years.
and
We're 10 years on trying to
it's
change
just
it,
not.
and it's
just
still
a tough,
hard.
tough battle.
But we bring people, we bring crews up. We have meetings. We have brainstorming things where we take we ask them for their ideas. We try and make the physical location of headquarters a place that's more of collaboration and
Work, and a
Good
little bit more
things.
work, though.
Well,
Because
no,
if you think
it's-
about it,
we bring them up for badge pinning ceremonies. Good things happen up at headquarters. There's some bad stuff. You're gonna get
Proportionally
if you're
good
getting,
towards bad.
well, if you're getting called to the carpet, there's only one place you're gonna go. I mean, that's
Yeah, but I think the captain's office is the same way in the fire station. You don't want to get
Really?
called to the captain's office. I mean,
That's not like that in ours. I don't see that.
I specifically remember pulling somebody and our captain's office at one station had glass on it was like a glass wall. You could see what was going on. And I remember pulling somebody in and closing the door and just looking at them and smiling and going, you wonder what everybody out there is thinking right now, don't you?
right? See,
And I mean, we were laughing and having a good time because we knew they were thinking bad.
but that's the way it
things.
works.
Well, but it totally wasn't. We were just in there
I
talking.
know it wasn't, but that is that's the persona of the way things are. So I had a very insightful chief I thought did a pretty good thing. He would ask anonymously for people to put in three things I'm doing you like that I do, three things I'm doing you wish I would change, and three things I don't know that I should be doing.
That's great.
And he'd have people. I think he said every 6 months he'd have people turn that in, which I think it's a pretty good, if you're open to it, a pretty good way to get some good
Yeah.
answers, good feedback about things you need to.
Were they only doing that to the chief, or were they doing that at basically at every level?
No, it was just the one chief officer. Actually, I've seen two of them do it.
All right.
Easy.
car
But-
came out of nowhere.
Sound like a drag car.
But it goes back into it too. If you gave them the feedback and they didn't really do anything with what you said, how likely are you to continually give you? Let's say it's you procrastinate. It's, and
Textbook
you see that they keep doing it and keep doing it and keep doing it, and you're like, okay, why'd you ask?
6 months later.
if you're not trying to improve,
Right.
you procrastinate to give me feedback on what I just said to you. So, I mean, if you go asking, you do have to actually be open to wanting to make some change in yourself, right?
Right. Well, like the one that we were
Not
talking
just
about
get
at the
a
beginning.
temperature check. I'm like,
The
am I doing
person-
good enough to get chief today?
Yeah. No, the person that came to Pabell, you were floored by that. I would be floored by it just because they're demonstrating a capacity for change.
Yeah.
And the act of coming forward and saying, "Am I like this? What should I be doing to not be like it?" That's huge.
It's just a level of maturity to that.
Think about how set we are.
Correct.
We're all about the same age. Think of how set you
Why'd
are.
you look at me immediately?
And that would be Pabot looking at Hatch.
Think
I got a
about-
lot of white hair, but
Think about how set you are in who you are at this point, character-wise. Your mannerisms, your everything. How hard is it to change that? If somebody said to you, Hatch, don't be so fucking direct all the time. How hard would that be to change?
I say it all the time.
So you're not changing.
It's part of his
But
DNA.
it's the same thing to me.
It wasn't
I mean,
always though.
No.
I think we've had this conversation before. It
You
wasn't
had
always.
a clear line in your life where you're like,
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there's some
No, no,
personal
you're
trauma
right.
that actually caused me to go this direction.
But you were younger, right? I'm saying now.
in my
You get to
30s.
You get to later in your life. We're all around 50. Babel, how old are you?
Not even close.
Not even close. Sorry.
baby of the group.
3 of us are around 50.
Around?
I'm 51 in a few days.
51 for me.
Yeah. How old are you, Patch?
None of your business.
Yeah, exactly. I'm quickly reaching that 50. I'm very
So
close.
I mean, but my point is that
47 or 48, I can't
what
remember.
is that capacity for change
Well,
when
that's
you're that
Nicole.
when you're older?
I think you're always, especially if you don't see the results that you're looking for, you should always be open to it.
I think I'm always searching for it, but I wonder how truly able to change I am.
So, do you think, this is a question I'm posing to the entire group now, do you think that you have changed for the better since we started, however many years ago that we really started to get to know each other? And we've come together as a group now for a very long time, family vacations together, different events. Have
Said
you
that so negatively.
changed?
A very long time.
Well, because you guys,
Really
because you guys
tired
are
of
all
you
in your 50s.
I don't know how many of
Sure
these
you
I have
remember.
left.
I only have a little bit left before I can say that. So. But how much, obviously, I think it's had an impact on all of us, but have you become a better person? Have you changed since that took place?
I think so.
I was about to say, for me personally, absolutely.
Yeah.
Do you
I
agree,
find
Hatch?
myself
Or not?
with you guys going, I wonder what Hatch would do. I wonder what Bill
Right.
would do. I wonder
Right.
what Pabell would do. I do that.
Hatch?
Yeah. yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
So with that being said, that goes back to my original point. If you can get an accountability group around you that you can trust,
Yeah.
growth is almost unavoidable because if you have that trust, you're going to change for the better, or should change for the better, I should say, unless you're around a bad group, but you should change for the better because it's so much easier for you to accept change when you have people around you that are there for your self-improvement, that are looking out for you. It's so much easier to go, okay, so I'll throw an example. I've thrown this out there before. There was a person that when I would get around them, my entire physical being would change. I didn't know this, but one of you noticed this and brought it to my attention and said, when this person walks into the room, your whole demeanor changes and it is very obvious that you dislike this person. I really didn't know. Now, if that person or anybody else would have said something to me, it wouldn't have been as well received. So I'm like, oh, wow, I need to be cautious about what I'm exuding because obviously maybe I dislike this person more than I even thought I disliked this person. So, those type of things are extremely helpful. Take the person that told me that aside that I trust, that said, man, your entire being is changing. You could tell you dislike this person. And somebody else from the station says something to me, it's just not going to have that type of impact that it would this person that I trust that knows me well and going, you might want to put that
So
in check.
it's not going to carry the same amount of weight. Same message, but different amount of weight.
Yes, for
Based off the
sure.
person it came
Yeah,
from.
because I know that the person that's saying it to me has my best interest in mind, knows me, there's trust, all those things are in place. I'm not saying that somebody can't impact me that way. So much easier for that accountability group, for that trust group to come up and say something to me, and immediately I'm taking action on it. Very similar to what you said earlier about you weren't concerned about you being a jerk that day. You were more concerned about us thinking you were a jerk.
Yeah. Your opinion, you guys' opinion matters. to
Right.
me.
And that comes with trust and everything else. So it's not that somebody else couldn't have went in there and said, man, Hatch, you're being a real jerk. It's
But-
just that group.
And for this group, the 4 of us, and we've talked about it numerous times, it's our different ways of thinking. I don't think we are very like-minded.
No.
And I think that's what most people try to seek out, though, is other people that are going to be on the exact same page. And so when you're
Right.
getting that feedback, it's just agreeing with another bad because they would have done the exact same that person just did.
Sure. You're
But
looking
we
for
are
agreement.
very different in how we approach problems, solve problems, and whatever. And I think that's the part that makes this. When you're talking about that accountability group, you have to be careful not to get some people that are
Agreeable.
exactly like you.
Not an echo chamber.
Exactly. You need the 10th man kind of thought
Right.
process of, looking at all the facets and looking at it from different angles that you aren't necessarily seeing.
And that's a fantastic point. So Nicole repeatedly tells me, and for those that you don't know, I've been married for 28 years. My wife knows this entire group very well, knows me, and she will constantly be like, it doesn't make any sense. You guys are so different. Our views, our backgrounds, our experiences, our opinions,
That
how
sounds
we...
very negative.
No. She just...
I want you to stop hanging around with them.
They're nothing like us. They're influencing you in such a
What
poor
are
way.
you doing? No, and she's actually, trying to put together like,
You did
we
what?
function so well.
You went and hung out with them again?
Yeah. Now she's hanging out.
That's true.
She's
They're all
hanging out
hanging
now.
out.
They're all hanging out. But it is difficult to wrap your mind around how did this group come to be when you have individuals that are so different in their views and their backgrounds and everything else. And it works simply because there's trust that ties it all together to go, yeah, trust is there. So when you, like you're saying, Bill, it's definitely not an echo chamber by any stretch of the imagination. All you have to do is listen to a few of them. Yeah. So, the trust is a huge thing. And I agree, Hatch, you can't be don't find somebody that's just going to be agreeable.
But I think that's what most people seek out. So,
A sycophant.
sycophant.
Look it up.
Yeah, I was going to say, look at that. That's
can't
a
even-
great
can
word.
you
I actually
spell it?
like
Yeah,
that word.
give me something I can spell. Maybe I will.
SYCHOPHANT.
PHANT.
Yeah.
You're so smart. Those guys are good.
So
Me and you'll be on this
we
side.
we had a mutual event that brought us together, right?
Yeah.
And we were given task and we had to perform task. I would say at a pretty high level, right?
Yeah.
Lot on the table.
I think that whole group was high level.
Okay, maybe not.
I
Maybe
was
not
about to say,
Shane.
not so much Steve. You guys did.
Shane just sent Bill to take notes all the time. Hey, man, I can't make that meeting. I need you to go and tell me what happened. But I think that's, when you're talking about trying to put together a team of very different individuals, you have to have been through some kind of crucible together to develop that
Yeah,
trust.
That makes sense.
I'd agree with that.
Because otherwise, I think you're always going to pick out people that are just like you. You have to go through some kind of event, some kind of, let's take the Go Ruck Challenge.
Yeah, that's what I was just sitting here thinking.
The Go Ruck Challenge is a perfect example because you had to lean on people you didn't necessarily know from jump. And, you had to, and you'll see the ones that are like, oh, making excuses, I got a stub toe or whatever. And you're going to see the ones that are like shining superstars. You're like, I want to be in that guy's camp. I don't care what he's about. I want to talk to that guy. Right?
Yeah.
So, so for people out there searching,
Which
I think
remind me to remind you of Go Ruck and an individual.
Okay.
so if you're searching for that type of group, just also realize that I think you may have to go through some kind of event,
Shared trauma.
experience.
Shared trauma.
Yeah, I didn't want to say trauma because nobody wants to do that, but I think it's some shared experience where you had to rely on people and their weaknesses had to be your strengths, and so vice versa. But if you do it just like he thinks like I do, it's not necessarily going to work.
I agree.
All right.
Well,
Well, just like that.
Combustible is available on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher, Amazon, and everywhere else you listen to podcasts. Subscribe to Combustible to make sure you don't miss out on an episode. Follow us on Facebook so we know how many of you listeners there are out there. And you can check us out online at combustiblethepodcast.com. As always, we would like to thank the Golden Dogs and True North Records for letting us use their song Saints at the Gates for our theme music. You can find the Golden Dogs music on any streaming platform. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you later.